Hello my viewers, you're welcome again to this channel, the Ethics into East Africa's channel that discusses matters corruption and corruption eradication. My name is Joseph Okhako, I'm the CEO Ethics into East Africa, and I'll be your host for the next few minutes as we discuss matters corruption and corruption eradication. A while ago, as we discussed about strategies to prevent corruption in an organization, I gave an example of how the President of the Republic of Kenya can be able to show direction on how to prevent corruption in the country. And I said tone at the top is the key to driving and corruption exercise in a country. I also said tone at the top is the key to prevent corruption in an organization. I gave examples of the CEOs being at the forefront, the board of directors being at the forefront, the executives of the organization being at the forefront in the fight against corruption. And I said one of the strategies to deal with, some of the strategies include what we are calling the value-based approach, number one, and number two is the compliance-based approach, and number three is the risk management approach, and number four is the awareness and the participation approach. And we were dealing with the issues of value-based approach. But I want to jump a little bit on and give some insights on how awareness and participation approach can be very key. In the organization that I worked for 26 years, 3/4 of that being as an anti-corruption manager, I introduced a generic approach to dealing with corruption in the organization, which I called the Ethics and Integrity Dialogue Sessions. This one is actually a model of the Ethics and Integrity Awareness and Participation approach, where you are involving all employees to discuss matters, corruption eradication, and getting insights from them on what strategies they can be employed, that can be employed in order to reduce corruption. And I remember that the organization had never gone e-recruitment, and one of the strategies the employees gave themselves, the executives, the managers in the organization gave themselves, was that can we be able to do e-recruitment? And I said, why not? Then we documented it. After documenting the e-recruitment exercise, we went to the board and we got funding to do e-recruitment. And as we speak today, the organization adopted e-recruitment. It has reduced corruption within recruitment process, selection and deployment of employees into the organization has been reduced, including when we got in, there were a lot of forged certificates. People were forging receipts and forging certificates and forging documents left, right. Taking a bribe in the organization was a normal trend that nobody bothered. In fact, when you accuse somebody of taking a bribe, you become the abnormal one. Because everybody was taking bribes and everybody was forging receipts and forging certificates of employment, and nobody cared about it. By the time of my leaving, the organization was not on the list of shame. And I think even recently, just recently, when the Public Service Commission of Kenya gave a list of institutions that have forged certificates, this particular organization was not on the list of shame. A clear indication that the strategy of employing awareness and participation in the employees actually works effectively well if adopted by top management of the organization. Now, so top on that agenda, on today's agenda, is a continuation of top management on how tone at the top makes a difference. And I want to go further and say that when we were discussing about the matters of the president establishing a cabinet committee on corruption eradication and talking from his desk through a circular to all public institutions to prioritize corruption eradication, right? We were actually implying that the president should speak from his office to public institutions about what they want, what he wants them to implement in order to ensure there is no corruption in the public service. Because there is one way of just talking, but they are not seeing some actions, all right? So the president needs to come out and provide that leadership. I want to go further and say that in order, one of the incentives, one of the actions that shows the top management's commitment to corruption eradication is provision of, number one, resources to eradicate corruption. It's not one thing to give resources to the EACC to deal with matters corruption, but also providing resources to offices, to organizations to operationalize corruption eradication in their respective organizations, EACC provides supervisory roles to ensure there is no corruption in the organization. Number two is provision of the organizational structures, establishing organizational structures in the organizations that are supposed to deal with corruption. Now, when I talk about resources, I'm referring to both capital and financial. Now, this is how it works. In the same organization I worked for 26 years, I realized corruption was actually taking much of our revenue and much of our time, and people were not very serious about what they were expected to do. Number one, what I did is to establish the Department of Ethics and Integrity. After establishing the Department of Ethics and Integrity through the top management and the board, we went further and provided a budget for to fight corruption in the organization. Then we went further, and then we recruited officers in the organization to deal with issues of corruption in the organization. That includes investigations, training, and awareness of the rest of the employees. They became the champions of anti-corruption. That alone is a commitment from management that they're actually seriously dealing with the issues of corruption. And I would like to report that once this was done, the institution actually has never appeared on the list of shame of the Transparency International Index. Why? Because they are actually fighting corruption properly, and they have made a lot of progress. The president should do the same thing. Number one, he should have an advisor on ethics and governance in his office who reports to him, and this particular person sits in the Cabinet Committee of Corruption Eradication. They should be resourced and provided with all the necessary support by the president to ensure there is no corruption in the public service. Thank you so much. We look forward to more insights on how we can be able to reduce corruption in our institutions.